Actually, it all began around 1765. By the way, by that time, I was the wealthiest man in Boston. I was 27 years old, and the reason I was wealthy is because I did it the honest way. I inherited it. My Uncle Thomas had passed away and left me everything. I had 4 merchant ships. I had a home on Beacon Hill, the biggest home in all the place. I had a chariot embedded with gold and the crest on the side, the big ornate H for the House of Hancock. I was the wealthiest merchant in town. But then what happened? The British Empire decided to impose, to pay for all their debts from the French and Indian War, a little thing called the Stamp Act, where they insisted that no paper product could ever be sold or used in our colony unless it had the government stamp on it, which cost money. What did we do? We refused to do anything that had to do with paper. All of the court systems stopped. No deeds, no transfers, no bills of sale, no playing cards, nothing happened in Boston. We boycotted the idea of the stamp that was required by the British Empire. 1 year later, they rescinded. 1766, they quit. Sam Adams had a smile on his face, but he still said, "I don't trust the British Empire." I said, "Hey, lighten up, Sam. The problem's over with. I'm going back to being a merchant. Leave me alone and leave me out of your grousing around complaining." Lucky for Sam, his indignancy at the British Empire paid off, because then they came up with another law called the Townshend Act. And at that time, they did not require a stamp on things. They just taxed the hell out of everything. May I say the word hell? The bottom line is, things were just terrible. They taxed not only playing cards, but cloth, oil, wood, anything that was furnished. You name it, they required it. Dyes, paints, anything we used or imported from the British Empire had to have a tax on it. Furthermore, when I shipped anything out, I had to go through London first before I could sell it anywhere else in the world, so they could collect a tax going out also. They were getting into my business. So we did some interesting things. There was a gentleman named Ebenezer McIntosh who ran the Southside Gang, as we called it. And Sam organized them, and one evening they went over to the Lieutenant Governor's home. His name was Thomas Hutchinson. I actually went to school with him. And Tom Hutchinson was in a bad place at the wrong time. The people showed up and first broke the fence down at his house. Then were cutting down his trees. Then started throwing rocks through all of his windows. He and his family escaped out the back door and went and hid in a neighbor's house. They intentionally went in through the house, ransacked everything, threw all of his furniture out into the mud, and then they actually went up to the cupola and started tearing the roof off. They were a little bit drunk, I might add, but then they discovered his wine cellar and cleaned that out, and then left. The following morning, and incidentally, not only was Tom Hutchinson the lieutenant governor, but he was also part of the Supreme Court of the colony. He went to court with only the clothes on his back and apologized that all of his other clothing had been thrown out and was useless. What could he do? Things were rotten. He wanted to find out who did it. Interestingly enough, everybody in the colony had an alibi that nobody was there that night when all of those bad people came along and did it. So what could he do? He basically ate it, and the county, the colony, and everyone else appropriated the idea of paying for it. As part of all of that happening,